Catholic and Eastern Orthodox leaders, among others, are condemning Israeli settler violence against a number of Palestinians, including Christian Palestinians. This is something that we need to categorically condemn. Church leaders are doing so. Even Senator Mike Huckabee is condemning this as an act of terror. Mike Huckabee, known for being pro Israel, is reprimanding the Israeli settlers and calling for action on part of the Israeli government against people who have carried out acts of terror, as he calls them. Let's take a look at what's going on. Before we do that, though, I want to remind you, please hit the subscribe button and the like button if you appreciate the content of this channel and you want to support it. I'm going to share my screen so I could show you what's going on. Specifically, let's take a look at Cardinal Pizzaballa, as well as the Eastern Orthodox Patriarch of Jerusalem, who are condemning this. Pizzaballa is the Latin Rite Catholic Church, the Catholic Patriarch of Jerusalem, and of course joined by the Eastern Orthodox Patriarch, among others. Leaders of the Holy Land and their churches condemn Israeli settler violence during a West Bank visit. Here you can see a picture of them. Here's Cardinal Pizzaballa, Patriarch Theophilos III. Top church leaders in the Holy Land asserted Monday that Israeli authorities facilitate and enable the presence of Israeli settlers who have intensified attacks in recent weeks on the entirely Christian Palestinian village remaining in the occupied West Bank, and the only entirely Christian Palestinian village in the West Bank. So this is a targeting specifically of Palestinian Christians. Speaking in the village Taybeh on a rare solidarity visit, Greek Orthodox Patriarch Theophilos III, Latin Patriarch Pierbattista Pizzaballa denounced the incident last week when settlers set fire near the community's church. They alleged that Israeli authorities failed to respond to emergency calls for help from the Palestinian community. In a separate statement, the patriarchs and heads of churches in Jerusalem demanded an investigation into the incident and called for the settlers to be held accountable by the Israeli authorities, who facilitate and enable their presence around Taybeh. The church leaders also claimed that settlers had brought their cattle to graze on Palestinian lands in the area, set fire to several homes last month, and put up a sign reading, "There is no future for you here." This is, of course, in accord with some of the Israeli settlers in the West Bank who want it to be entirely Israeli and to remove all Palestinians. We saw Daniela Weiss recently explain or share and promote that sentiment on none other than Piers Morgan's channel, which we reviewed here. Israel's military did not immediately respond to the allegations. It has previously said it takes action against outlaw settlers and that many incidents of settler violence involve stone throwing and clashes between Israeli settlers and Palestinians. The war in Gaza has sparked a surge of violence in the West Bank, with the Israeli military targeting militants in large-scale operations that have killed hundreds of Palestinians and displaced tens of thousands. That has coincided with a rise in settler violence and Palestinian attacks on Israelis. Palestinian militants have attacked and killed Israelis in Israel and the West Bank. Cardinal Pizzaballa, the top Catholic cleric in Jerusalem, said he believed the West Bank was becoming a lawless area. He says, "The only law in the West Bank is that of power, of those who have the force, not the law. We must work for the law to return to this part of the country so anyone can appeal to the law to enforce their rights." He and Theophilus prayed together in the church of St. George, whose religious site dates back centuries, adjacent to the area where settlers ignited the fires. The statement from the heads of the churches comes as Palestinians report a surge of settler violence. On Sunday, hundreds descended on the village of Al Mazra, south of Taybeh, for the funeral of two young men killed during a settler attack on Friday. The Christian community in Israel and the Palestinian territories has dwindled as a percentage of the overall population over the decades, with experts citing lower birth rates and immigration by people fleeing conflict or seeking better opportunities abroad. Christians now make up a tiny percentage of the population, and those Christians right now are clearly in jeopardy. In addition to this, as I said, Senator Mike Huckabee has lost patience with Israel and is now condemning this attack. This incident obviously took place on the 8th of July, as we mentioned, a Christian majority town northeast of Ramallah, Taybeh, where Israeli settlers set fire to land adjacent to a 5th century Byzantine church and the town's cemetery. Taybeh, one of the last remaining all Christian communities in Palestine, has long been targeted by Israeli settlers seeking to displace Palestinians and seize their land. U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee, a vocal supporter of Israel's settlement expansion, visited the site over the weekend and issued a rare rebuke. He says it's an act of terror and it's a crime. Those who carry out acts of terror and violence in Taybeh or anywhere should be prosecuted, not just reprimanded. That's not enough. Israel's government has yet to comment on the attack. Now, what we tend to hear is, well, it was an accident, or we'll look into it and we'll have an investigation. But this is happening all too often, and not just against Palestinian Christians, but of course, Palestinian Muslims as well. It seems like there is continually problems with Israel targeting civilians. Now, of course, they'll deny targeting civilians, but it really leaves us with only two options at this point. Either Israel is so incompetent that it continually allows for this kind of behavior, or it's deliberately targeting civilians. Either way, it's incompetent, and the United States and our tax dollars in the United States should not be used to fund this government. This is wrong. This is evil. It needs to be denounced. The Pope is denouncing the acts of the Israeli government. Cardinal Pizzaballa is denouncing it. Now Mike Huckabee is denouncing it. How much longer until we all, in solidarity, denounce this evil for what it is? And it's just that. It's evil. Civilians, Christian, Muslim, or otherwise, should not be targeted by Israel, either in the West Bank, Gaza, or anywhere else. Israel is losing a lot of supporters. A lot of people who were sympathetic to Zionism or Israel's war on Gaza are starting to express their concerns and even lack of support. We've even seen that recently with figures like Michael Knowles. If Israel is losing Mike Huckabee and Michael Knowles, there's a serious problem because even the pro-Zionists can no longer defend this stuff. That should tell you something. The situation is very bad. And as I just recently showed, this also comes on the heels of the one Catholic church in Gaza being hit by a tank, a missile from a tank, killing several people, injuring others, including the priest, which again Pope Leo has condemned, spoke to Netanyahu on the phone and told him there cannot be any targeting of holy sites. Of course, Netanyahu said there was no intention to do so. Stray missile. Well, why does this continue to happen? If it was just an accident, too many accidents have happened. Can't keep giving this a pass. Or it's intentional. So again, either Israel is incredibly incompetent or they're doing this on purpose. Now, I think based on what we've seen from Netanyahu, as well as other high up officials in Israel and its leadership, I think it's safe to say, even with giving the judgment of charity, I think it's safe to say it's intentional. Why? Because it's very clear they see Palestinians as a problem that are not going away, so they need to just get rid of them in one way or another so that they don't have to continue dealing with them. And that's wrong. Take a look at the video I've done recently. I'll put a link to it in the show notes talking about the situation with the Catholic Church that was struck, hit with a missile by a tank. Take a look at the video why I explain biblically, historically, and politically why I don't support Zionism. Also, take a look, I'll put it in the show notes, of a couple years back when this war began. Israel killed in the same Catholic Church that it recently just struck in Gaza. Snipers shot to death 2 Christians, Christian women, at the same Catholic Church. Why does this continue to happen? Ask yourself that question. I'll put a link again to those in the show notes. Go and check them out. And I'll do my best to continue to keep you updated with this situation. Pray for all of the people involved, for Israel to stop doing what it's doing, for the United States to also stop funding this garbage. Everybody hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We'll see you later.